It was the summer of 1945, a time when the end of World War II was drawing near, but the battle was far from over. On the Far East Front, the Japanese Navy, though severely weakened, still possessed formidable strength. To the British Royal Navy, the fight was not over, and it was during this critical time that one of the most daring operations of the war would unfold. On 31st July 1945, in the Johore Strait near Singapore, a small, almost inconspicuous vessel would make history. This vessel, the Midget Submarine XE-3, was armed with the task of striking a heavy blow to the Japanese war machine. Its target was the Japanese cruiser Takao, a formidable ship that had once ruled the waves, but now found itself vulnerable to the shadowy attacks of the British Royal Navy's Midget submarines. Commanded by Lieutenant Ian Fraser, XE-3 was about to embark on a mission that would test the resolve, skill, and courage of every man aboard. But it wasn't just the commander who would rise to the occasion. It was a quiet, unassuming sailor who would display unimaginable bravery in the face of certain death. That sailor's name was James Joseph Magennis. The operation was part of Operation Struggle, a strategic effort designed to weaken the Japanese naval forces in Southeast Asia by targeting their most critical warships. The plan was simple, yet perilous. The crew of XE-3, using their small, stealthy vessel, would sneak up on the Takao, plant explosive charges, and escape before the enemy could retaliate. On that fateful day, the XE-3 crew had one mission: to plant limpet mines on the Takao, an imposing, heavy cruiser that had been in service since the early years of the war. The task at hand was daunting. The Midget submarine, measuring just 50 feet in length, was vulnerable in such hostile waters, and the risk of detection by the enemy was ever present. But for the men aboard XE-3, there was no turning back. The crew of the submarine was a well-oiled machine, moving with precision and practiced skill. Lieutenant Fraser, a man of exceptional leadership, guided his crew with a steady hand. But it was James Joseph Magennis, a leading seaman and diver by trade, who would play a pivotal role in ensuring the success of the mission. Magennis, like the other members of the crew, was aware of the dangers that lay ahead. The Takao was heavily guarded, and the waters surrounding Singapore were teeming with enemy forces. But the stakes were clear. The success of this mission could disrupt Japanese naval operations and bring the Allies one step closer to victory. As XE-3 silently navigated the dark waters of the Johore Strait, the crew moved cautiously toward the Takao. With every movement, they knew the risks of detection were high. But Magennis, ever calm and focused, was ready to do his part. His task was to plant the limpet mines on the hull of the cruiser. Magennis descended into the depths, braving the dangers of the deep. In those treacherous waters, his actions were precise and deliberate. As he placed the explosives on the side of the Takao, the magnitude of his task was clear. One wrong move could spell disaster for him and the crew. But there was no hesitation. Magennis's years of experience as a diver and sailor had prepared him for this moment. Once the explosives were set, the crew made their move to escape, but disaster struck. The Takao, alert to the presence of the XE-3, fired depth charges at the submarine. The pressure and force of the explosions reverberated throughout the Midget submarine, causing damage to the vessel. In an instant, XE-3 was in a perilous situation. The crew was trapped. As the depth charges rained down, Magennis faced a choice: panic or act with unwavering resolve. He chose the latter. Magennis's composure under fire was nothing short of extraordinary. With the submarine severely damaged and the crew's lives hanging in the balance, he didn't flinch. He remained calm, directing his shipmates through the perilous moments that followed. The damage to XE-3 was significant, but Magennis did not allow panic to take hold. His leadership during the chaotic moments after the attack ensured that the submarine and its crew would escape the enemy's clutches. It was his bravery and ability to keep his focus, even when the submarine was on the verge of destruction, that would ultimately make the mission a success. The Takao, now severely damaged by the limpet mines placed by Magennis, began to burn. The mission was complete, but XE-3's escape was far from certain. The crew navigated their vessel through the dangerous waters, evading further depth charges and enemy forces. Against all odds, they managed to break free. The mission had been a success. The Takao was doomed, a key Japanese warship sent to the bottom of the sea. The success of the operation dealt a significant blow to the Japanese Navy, weakening their position in the region and pushing the Allies ever closer to victory. However, the victory came at a high price. XE-3 had been badly damaged, and the escape from the enemy was nothing short of miraculous. But for James Joseph Magennis, the story of this mission was not one of simple success. It was a testament to the strength of character and courage under fire. For his extraordinary bravery, Magennis was awarded the Victoria Cross, the highest military honor in the British Empire. It was a recognition of his unshakable courage and his refusal to yield in the face of certain death. But he was not alone in receiving the honor. Lieutenant Ian Fraser, the commanding officer of XE-3, also received the Victoria Cross for his leadership during the operation. The actions of Magennis and Fraser that day are remembered not just for their military significance, but for the profound example they set. Their courage under fire, their ability to persevere against overwhelming odds, and their dedication to their mission are qualities that define true heroism. James Joseph Magennis was a man of humble beginnings, yet in that moment, aboard the XE-3, he stood among giants. His story is a reminder of the extraordinary feats that can be achieved by ordinary men when faced with adversity. In the end, the story of the Takao and the men who brought her down, especially James Joseph Magennis, is one of sacrifice, bravery, and the spirit of defiance in the face of impossible odds. It's a story that will forever be etched in the annals of military history as a shining example of what true courage looks like in the darkest of times. James Joseph Magennis, a name that will never be forgotten. For he did what few could ever imagine. He changed the course of history with his bravery, and in doing so, earned a place among the greatest heroes of World War II.